Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica and our continuing series, the Unported playlist, where we take a look at some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And today we're taking a look at Air Combat 22, released in 1995 by Namco on the System 22 hardware, and it was upgraded from the System 21 from the original game, so that's why it's called Air Combat 22. And this basically feels like a precursor to the Ace Combat series that Namco would release on home consoles, but I kind of wish this one came out because I really enjoy it. I love the look, I love the feel, it's a fun arcade-style game, and I think it would have been great if they had just added this on as a bonus entry in the Ace Combat series, or had released it before they had done that series. But why didn't it come home? Because they had Ace Combat, so that makes perfect sense. But in reality, it's just your basic combat simulator, but it's got that arcade feel and it is quite great. How the mechanics work is you see all these different planes here, and when you lock onto them you get tone like you would in a normal fighter jet. So when you fire the missile off, it's going to home into them, but you need to keep your target in that circle, the larger circle that you see on the screen, because if you are outside of that circle, the plane you're trying to hit, that missile is going to lose lock and you're not going to destroy that enemy. So it does have some strategic information in there on how it works. The circle's forgiving. You'll see I hit that enemy just outside of it, but if you're too far outside of the circle, you're going to miss your shot. And I will say the gun has absolutely no use to me whatsoever. I can rarely if ever shoot down a plane using the gun. But you'll see here on that first sortie, we were able to destroy everybody and we're moving on, and you get these great transitional scenes with a little bit of speech and some music in between. Now, it is not the longest game. You basically have a combat mission and you have a dogfight mode, so there's not going to be a ton of replayability in it, but as far as emulating it's concerned, what does it really matter if it's got replayability? If you play it for 15 minutes, enjoy yourself, you experience it, and then you put it down and don't come back to it for a year or two, you're really not losing much. You can get an arcade PCB for this game, and you can definitely wire up a flight stick because that's what the cabinet had, and it won't be too hard. And if you get a really nice flight stick, it's going to feel like you're actually flying the plane. So as far as converting controls over to using a super gun in the original arcade board, this is going to be a great example of something that would be perfect for it, because that home flight stick you wire into it is going to be near identical to the flight stick that was on the cabinet, so it's going to feel as close to having a real arcade cabinet in your house as possible if you are playing on a super gun. But visually, I love the look of the System 22 hardware. It feels like a PlayStation except enhanced. Everything looks good, the draw distance is great, the polygonal models are really good. You do get a little bit of pixelation in the different textures, but that's fine. It just feels and looks like what I remember arcades being like in the mid-90s. So for the nostalgia factor alone, I definitely really enjoy playing this game. And you'll notice I'm not actually doing many cuts in this video because I want to show you what the game is like from start to finish, because it is quite interesting and it is a lot of fun. The one weird thing is you can't actually hit the ground. If you point the plane right at the ground, it's going to pull up automatically for you with autopilot, so you can't just crash. But this is a fun little component here. To be able to get to the next part of the mission, we need to refuel, and the controls all of a sudden become sloppy, but intentionally so, because you need to be able to get your refueling hook into that little basket there, the same way that aircraft would refuel in the sky. And I can't imagine it's a very easy procedure when you're moving that fast, and it kind of feels like, I don't know, like a space simulator when you're trying to, dock something like in Kerbal Space Program. It feels challenging, but it also feels fair. And you will see here that as you get closer, the controls become a little bit more wild, but I was able to lock onto it perfectly fine. And I got my bonus time right there. Now that we've refueled, we can move on to the next mission. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let you watch a little bit, and I'll come back and talk more about the game. But hear the sound effects, hear the music. It's got a definite Top Gun vibe. But enjoy, and I'll be back in just a moment.
It's showtime! Engage! Great shot! I got dope! Great shot! Target right side, low, lock on. Target right side, level. Target ahead, level. Target behind, high.
So now that we've gotten through that wave of enemies, we're going to move on to the last bit of the mission mode, and that's going to be trying to destroy an aircraft carrier, which I'm spoiling because I can see it on my timeline and you haven't seen it quite yet. It's down to the right. And this gets challenging because of how you speed up. If you hold a certain button, your plane's going to be able to speed up, and if you hold another button, it's going to slow down. So you have to come in with enough speed to be able to beat this without running out of time. But if you come in with too much speed, it becomes more difficult to be able to actually hit your target. So it's definitely the challenge mode, and you'll see here that I come around and I'm moving slow, and I have enough time to hit certain things. But as I get closer, it becomes a little bit more difficult, and luckily I was able to swing around at the last possible second and be able to destroy everything with a continue. So it's definitely a challenging last level. Had I gone a little bit further out and swung around, I would have been able to probably hit both of those last planes on the aircraft carrier without having to use that continue. But in the entire playthrough, I only used one continue, so if you're playing this in arcades, I mean, granted it only took me about 6 minutes and 30 seconds up to this point in time, you would have only spent maybe $2 to experience the game. So as far as money to quality is concerned, it's really good. It's definitely not trying to eat your quarters. And you'll see here, I am trying to find my last target, and you can get a little lost, but that's kind of the fun of it. And it does give you those arrows on the screen to tell you where you need to be. But 2 credits, beat the main mission mode, and now we can move on and show you guys some more stuff of this. And I will say the one downfall of this game, and I've never seen linked cabinets, is there is a dogfight mode, but I've only ever seen this cabinet as a single standalone, and I looked on Google Images to try to find anything about linking, and I couldn't find a single instance showing 2 cabinets side by side. So this game would have been better if you could play with a friend and have a dogfight in real time with them. Maybe that was just too challenging of a mode with having 2 actual humans controlling it and flying around versus having enemies. And you'll see I got Airman First Class. I thought I did really well, but apparently you can do better. But you'll see here now that there are different planes that you can use with different types of missiles. They don't play all that differently, but you do get enough diversity in the game where you're able to play different planes, fly around in different methods, and they all have their slight different control scheme that gives you a little bit more of a different feel, even if the main mission mode isn't going to change much. So that's probably why this didn't get ported. Namco clearly knew they had a popular idea. The cabinet, supposedly did really well, but if they wanted to translate this to something like PlayStation, having a main story mode that takes 8 minutes really isn't going to be enough meat on a full price release to be able to satisfy fans. So I can 100% see where the Ace Combat series came from, a derivative of this, kind of increasing the idea. And now we're moving into dogfight mode, which is different. You're going to see that we're taking off in the dark, and we're going to kind of come up into the sunrise. So there is a little bit more to do in the game, even if it's not the most amount of entertainment possible, because it's an arcade game and it just needed to entertain you for 6 to 10 minutes. And that's the same thing with Tokyo Wars, another game running on the Namco System 22. And it seemed like Namco really liked using that platform to make short experiences. Alpine Racer 2, Air Combat 22, Tokyo Wars, they all take about maybe 5 to 6 minutes to beat on a credit. So it seems like, at least in that mid-90s era, Namco liked making really interesting, feature-rich cabinets that had great gameplay, and you could play them from start to finish for maybe $2, which I appreciate because not every arcade game I play, I want to play for 45 minutes. But short of that, that's Air Combat 22, an awesome dogfighting simulator, war simulator. I highly recommend it. It emulates perfectly in MAME. If you could do us a huge favor, go down below and hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell. It takes us a lot of time and energy to make each one of these episodes, and we really appreciate your support. If you have any questions or comments, or if you've ever played the game before, if you know of an arcade cabinet still out in the wild, I'd love to hear about it because these things are becoming incredibly rare. We will be back next Sunday with an episode in the Unported playlist arcade series, and we will be back on Tuesday and Friday with episodes in those respective series as well. Short of that, we hope you enjoyed the video. We hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Like I said, questions or comments, leave them below. Otherwise, watch the last few seconds. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.